Hello, friends. Back once again. I know it's been a long time with no C. I'm coming in with this video last minute, super late, but it's just for you. My insight into this shit is crazy. I don't even want to talk about fucking last week. That's not why I didn't make a video, though, actually. I've been super busy, both with school and I also have family visiting from out of state to New York City, so hosting as well. I will get into the fights in a moment. I think this fight card is going to be crack, actually. Pretty fucking crack. Not that many spooky hours, and the spooky hours, when it's spooky hours, it's usually spooky hours for another reason. We got spooky hours right off the bat in this one. Let's see. There's also some spooky stuff later, and we'll talk about it when we get there, though. Now, I'm pretty fried because there was multiple fights that I thought were actually pretty hard to pick, like extremely hard to pick. Didn't do that much switching, though, which is good, on this one, I think. All right, let's get into it. Starting off, as always, the early prelims, the prelims first fights, talking about those all the way up to the main card, giving my thoughts, the vibes, any insight that I have on the fights. And starting off with Daniel Marcos versus Aoriqilieng. Aoriqilieng, as Daniel Cormier says. Versus Daniel Marcos. Soncora, my boy Soncora, Daniel Marcos. Remember that name, Daniel Marcos? A lot of people, it's strange. Daniel Marcos, despite winning the Davey Grant fight, kind of lost a little bit of stock. Just a teensy bit of stock in some people's eyes. That's what I think. Just based off the way people talk about him, I think Daniel Marcos is still fire. He's great. I think he's super low-key, too. He's a very cerebral fighter. I think he has enough grappling competence just to survive, at least, type shit. He's undefeated at 15-0. I'll rattle off the physical stats as always first. Daniel Marcos and Aoriqilieng are coming into this fight both at 30 years old. They are both 5'7" tall. Aoriqilieng has a 0.3-inch reach advantage at 69.3 inches. Daniel Marcos coming in with a 69-inch reach. Daniel Marcos is a Dana White Contender Series graduate. He's 15-0, undefeated. 2 of those wins he picked up in the UFC. He had a 6-0 undefeated amateur record. He has 8 victories by KO TKO. Picked up 1 of those in the UFC. He has 7 of his other wins by decision. And 2 of those came, 1 in the UFC, 1 of them in Dana White Contender Series. Now, he's very slick. Daniel Marcos is very slick on the feet. Something that I feel like people aren't really saying about Aoriqilieng is that I feel like Aoriqilieng is actually eerily similar to Daniel Marcos, just with, more grappling, maybe. Eerily similar. Maybe I'm fried. I'm fried, actually. But maybe I'm fried on that very concept. But I think Daniel Marcos is a really, really good fighter. I think he understands people's styles and he breaks them down mid-fight. He can really adapt to individual styles and overcome them. I think the odds on this shit are fried in terms of, Daniel Marcos being such a heavy favorite. I think it's closer. I think Daniel Marcos is the better fighter. I think he should be a favorite. But it was spooky. It was minus 250 the last time I peeped that. And that's insane. That's a little nutty, I think, for this one. We're going with Daniel Marcos, honestly. It's a little spooky. Just the teensiest bit spooky. I said this one was spooky hours. It's just spooky hours, I guess, if Aoriqilieng can actually land some of the straight shots that he really wants to. That's spooky. But will he? Probably not. Daniel Marcos is extremely competent on the defensive side of striking. He's chilling. I think he kind of has this fight in the bag a little bit. Men's bantamweight fight. Moving on. Second fight. Hyder Emil versus Fernie Garcia. Man, and I can't help but think that this is a possible trap. People, you can start calling me crazy. Go type you're fried. You know nothing right now. You can do that. That's okay. Now listen to this. Fernie Garcia, despite having an absolute dogshit UFC career, T-Rex arms, and literally never having won in the UFC itself, despite winning on Dana White Contender Series, in a fight that he was actually losing, I feel like, up until that. But it versus Weems, yeah, he was losing that shit. He has sneaky power, and I think he has like just a confidence issue or some shit, man. It's just like, I don't know what it is. I think it's a mental thing, really. I don't think maybe he's the worst for real. Like his last fight, I forget the opponent's name, the Japanese guy, the Japanese kid. He was fucking amazing. He was a phenomenal grappler and was just violating him. But Fernie tried. I mean, and that's the thing here. I'm going with Hyder Emil. We'll get to Hyder Emil in a second. Just because I feel like in good faith I really can't pick Fernie, but I want to pick Fernie, and I'm rooting for Fernie Garcia to win this fight. It's okay if Fighter actually loses because I fucking wanted to pick Fernie, man. I still want to pick Fernie, even though it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy. He's moving up in weight. He's a bantamweight originally. He's moving up to featherweight to face Hyder Emil in Hyder Emil's debut. Fernie comes into this fight at 31 years old. He's 5'7" tall, 67-inch reach. Hyder matches up with him 2 years older at 33 years old. He's 5'10" tall, and he has a 70-inch reach advantage. Hyder Emil is undefeated at 8-0. He's making his UFC debut. He has a 1-1 amateur record. He is a Dana White Contender Series graduate. He went 3-0 in Bellator, 3-0 in LFA. He has 4 wins by KO TKO. 1 of those came in Bellator. 2 of those came in LFA. Picked up a submission win in Bellator. Picked up 3 decisions, 1 in Bellator, 1 in LFA, and then 1 on Dana White Contender Series. We're going to get back to that Contender Series win in a second because it's interesting that he was awarded that contract on a decision win, you might think. But if you actually watched that fight, not to say you didn't, but if you actually watched that fight, it was a great fight. It was an amazing fight. It was a dog fight, you know? And Hyder Emil overcame adversity. He was losing that fight in the beginning, and he actually overcame and then started really, like, decisively winning. It was very good to watch. We're actually going to move straight on to Hyder Emil, I think, right now. So Hyder Emil, like I was saying, you know, I think starting your career a little bit later, that's fine, whatever. He fights like a tank. He has a chin. He has a fucking chin, okay? And he knows that, and he uses it. He will go straight into shots. He'll tank shots. That's fine, because it seems like it's working out so far. I think the UFC is kind of setting him up for success, maybe, with this one a little bit. Especially against a dude like Fernie Garcia, who, like, sometimes tweaks out, too. Like, he just tweaks out. It's spooky here, though. The dude he fought on the Contender Series was nice, right? But he has also struggled against just lower-level dudes. I mean, that's kind of the game, but there's just something about Hyder Emil I don't like. I am picking Hyder Emil, but I don't know. If Fernie Garcia wins, I'll be very happy. Shout out to Fernie Garcia, man. I hope you can make that. Fix whatever needs to be fixed. Make that tweak, brother. Like, I feel like you're not as bad as you seem. Moving on to a fight that I think a lot of people are fucking tweaking on. Zach Pauga, or Paunga. I don't know why it's like Paunga, or not. I don't know why, but it's just peculiar. Zach Paunga versus Bogdan Guskov. A lot of people are going with Bogdan. I don't know. I do know why. I know why people are going with Bogdan Guskov. Zach Pauga is 6'2" tall. He's 35 years old. He's coming into this fight with a 74-inch reach versus Bogdan Guskov, who is 31 years old, so 4 years younger. We got to remember that. 6'3" and 76-inch reach. He's a big dude and he's very strong, Bogdan. But so is Zach Paunga. I think the difference in their strength is just explosivity and fluidity, like how fluid they are on the feet, how light they are, how well they can move. Starting off with Zach. Zach's coming into this fight 6-2, 1-2 in the UFC. He had a 5-0 amateur career. He was a finalist on The Ultimate Fighter. Unfortunately, he just was. It's just a neutral thing. He was knocked out by Mohamed Usman. But that was at heavyweight. That was at heavyweight. There's a reason why Zach Ponga is not fighting at heavyweight for this. Like, there's a big reason why, I think, honestly. And that is his one loss by KO TKO. So, one pro loss by KO TKO. What scares me about Zach Ponga is, despite the power and his ability to land some shots, like, he hurt Modestas Bukauskas in his fight, in that fight. It was spooky hours. That was not an easy fight type shit. It was very fucking spooky. Zach Ponga is just a bit fucking brutish, man. He's just a bit brutish. And Bogdan, we're going to get to Bogdan, but Bogdan, at least, it doesn't matter if you're even doing it against cans. You build up that fluidity and that flowy, that vibe, that striking prowess, you know, that slick, smooth style. And you do that after a long time. But Zach Ponga, especially, you can see it when he goes in for some takedown entries. You know, he's just a touch slow, and sometimes he's just brooding them. He's just a bit brutish, especially on the takedown entries, I think. And a dude like Bogdan, we're going to go to Bogdan now. Bogdan's 14-3 coming into this, right? He's 0-1 in the UFC. Some people might not think that's too bad, especially for fighting a dude like Volkan fucking Ozdemir in your debut. A ranked, I believe, top 10. I think he was ranked fucking number 9. A top 10 dude in your debut is a tall order for anyone, really. And he got exposed, though. And I'm saying he got exposed, I'll tell you why. If you actually look at Bogdan Guskov's record, right? Go to Tapology, look at Bogdan Guskov. Look at who he's beating. He has a legitimately padded record. That can't be argued, I think. He has a legitimately padded record. I didn't confirm this myself. I did hear announcers saying that he had over 100 amateur boxing fights. He is a master of sport in both MMA and boxing. And he has an insane finish rate. Well, he has a 100% finish rate. The thing is, 12 of his 14 wins have come by KO TKO. He has one loss by KO TKO. We're going to get to that one loss, too, because they don't want you to know about that one loss. And who's they? That's his fucking team. That's Bogdan's fucking team, okay? He's 2-1 when it comes to submissions. He has 2 victories by submission, 1 loss by submission. That 1 loss came in the UFC. That was his debut. He was choked out. He got rear naked choked by Volkan Ozdemir in round 1. Now, and he has a loss by decision. One thing also to note about Bogdan, he's a fucking tweaker. He's just a tweaker. Like, if you watch his fights, he'll just tweak. He gets confident. He starts doing crazy shit, taunting, bugging out. Like, and when you're fighting, like, actual, like, laid-off factory workers, plumbers, taxi drivers, fucking cans, it's not the... I don't want to see that shit all the time. Like, the first time, sure. But it's fucking horrible, man. It's disgusting a little bit. Bogdan, ultimately, this is going to sound extremely rough. Bogdan Guskov is a bum until proven otherwise. Okay? I'm going to leave it at that. Zach Ponga's the pick. Possibly even to pick up a juicy KO TKO, because also Bogdan's chin got fucking checked. Okay, people are saying his chin held up a little bit. No. We're going to go back. Oh, yes, let's go back to that one KO TKO loss. Now, the one KO TKO loss came from an absolute jobber. God, I don't remember his name. It was an super Russian name, super Slavic name. Where I found this, though, if you go to the Tapology page for this event, scroll towards some of the more recent at this time. I want to say like page 12, 13, around there. But look, of course, someone will say, yo, I saw one of his earliest, or not earliest fights, but like he got knocked out by a fucking jab from a jobber. And his team apparently is like trying to like hide that shit. Allegedly. I mean, I'm not going to say that for a fact, but people are trying to cover for him. I think the UFC is not trying to cover for him, though. This is what I think this fight is. They're tossing this dude to Zach Ponga. This is a test both for Zach Ponga, like, yo, let's see what you can do. And for Bogdan, let's see what you're about. Let's see what you're really about. Like, we want to know. And that's what I'm saying. Bogdan's a fucking bum until proven otherwise. I just have to say it. Like, he might prove me wrong. He might really violate. He might come out and knock out Zach Ponga because he actually is somewhat skilled with the hands. It's just the people that he's using those skills on are not skilled at all. They're not skilled at all. And when he does use it against people with skill, it hasn't worked out at all. At all. At all. At all. It's horrible, man. It was a tough debut. Honestly, I take that back. This is spooky hours. This fight is spooky hours. Zach Ponga versus Bogdan Guskov is spooky hours, but Zach Ponga is the fucking pick. I don't think you can pick fucking Bogdan. Like, I get it. You think that he might KO him, and he really might. And he really might. Like I said, Zach Ponga, he'll take shots. But he's a bum. He's a fucking bum. Like, he has a padded record, for Christ's sake. This dude is actually a bum until proven otherwise. Moving on. Max Griffin versus Jeremiah Wells. We're going with Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells is coming into this fight 1 year younger at 37 years old, 5'9" tall, 74-inch reach. Max Griffin 1 year older, like I said, 38 years old, 5'11" tall, 76-inch reach. Max Payne Griffin. Let's start there. Max Payne, man. I like Max Payne, actually, but I like Jeremiah Wells a little bit more, and specifically in this matchup, I think Jeremiah Wells, just the physicality. Jeremiah Wells doesn't fight like he's like 37 type shit. Max Griffin does kind of look like he's 38 when he fights. He doesn't look 38 physically. Yeah, these guys actually look pretty good. Age is catching up to Max Griffin, I think, a little bit. That's not to say his skills are not there. I think his striking is notably better than Jeremiah's. I think Jeremiah is just going to have that athletic, that physical edge, legitimately. And that's going to translate not only in grappling, which Jeremiah Wells, I think, will just, he'll be chilling with, but also on the feet. I think it's going to translate to power on the feet, as well. Max Griffin coming into this fight, 19-10, 7-8 in the UFC. He had a 2-1 amateur record, if you're interested. 9 of his 19 wins have come by KO TKO. 3 of those KO TKOs occurred in the UFC. He has 1 loss by KO TKO, which happened in the UFC, obviously, as you know. I believe that was to Colby Covington. But that was a minute ago. That was a hot minute ago. He has 2 wins by submission, not in the UFC. And he is 8-9 when it comes to decisions. 4 wins, 7 losses by decision in the UFC. If there's something that Max Griffin still that is holding up, though, despite the age, it's actually his chin a little bit. His chin has held up a little bit, I say. And he has heart. He's not just getting hit and like getting super rocked and fleeing and shit and getting out of there. He's fighting back. Sometimes he's actually like biting down, even though he's visibly like hurt from a strike, and he's swinging back. I like that a lot, actually. I don't think the opportunity for that will happen in this fight, though. This isn't like a Michael Morales, I believe his name is, that's what I was actually picturing in my head, where Max Griffin was biting down on the mouthpiece and actually swinging back and sometimes clipping Michael. I don't think this fight is going to go down that way, and for that reason, I really am going with Jeremiah Wells. I think Jeremiah Wells will just dictate the fight, basically. And if there's like a spooky exchange on the feet, I favor Jeremiah, despite the skill difference, I think. I just think the power just... We'll have to see. We'll really have to see. That's a tenuous pick, like a tentative pick. Like I do like Max Griffin, but I think Jeremiah Wells has this one. Moving on to a spooky hours fight. This is spooky hours. Light heavyweight men's bout: Devin Clark versus Marcin Prachnio. Now, I wanted to pick Marcin. My initial pick was Marcin. It's not like I switched. It was just like my instinct. I was like, ooh, I think Marcin will win. And then like once I started to watch some tape, like, I don't think so. You see, Marcin literally has all the tools needed to send Devin Clark out to the Shadow Realm. Deadass. But he's not going to use them. He doesn't, like, use them, and it's so weird just the way he fights, man. Like, his skill, his credentials, the credentials of Marcin do not translate to his MMA ability when you watch him fight. It really doesn't. It's bizarre, actually, to me. You know, he had an extremely rough start in his UFC career. He got 3 KO TKO losses consecutively. The only kind of asterisk to that is that they were all to, like, good dudes or, like, prolific finishers, so it does make sense, you know? His losses make sense, like, some of them. Vitor Petrino, he kind of just, that was a tough fight, you know? Vitor, much younger than him, you know, and it showed, but he just got controlled really on the ground. I think Devin Clark maybe could even crack Marcin because Marcin's chin is suspect. So is Devin Clark's, but Marcin's chin is suspect. It really is. Like, Devin Clark a little bit smaller, but with a 1-inch reach advantage, coming into this fight at 33 years old, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach. That is Devin Clark. Marcin matching up at 35 years old, 6'3", 74-inch reach. It's spooky. Marcin is 16-7, 3-5 in the UFC. He went 4-0-1. 11 wins. 11 out of his 16 wins have come by KO TKO. Picked up 1 of those in the UFC. Picked up 3 more in 1. The thing is, 3 out of his 4 KO TKO career losses came in the UFC. Like I said, they were right off the bat. It was just, dudes were finishing him. Literally left and right. And then left again. And then it changed up for a little bit. He's 1-1 career submissions, win-loss. That loss came in the UFC, and 4-2 when it comes to decisions, 2-1 in the UFC. And he picked up 1 extra decision victory in 1. It's tough. This is tough. Devin Clark, you see, a lot of people are counting him out, I feel like, because of his Kennedy Nchukwu loss. The thing is, he hurt Kennedy Nchukwu so fucking bad he almost finished him. But Kennedy Nchukwu somehow, like, actually healed and recovered while getting hit on some crazy shit. Like, it was like the hits were healing him that Devin Clark was throwing. The hits that Devin Clark threw, like, just made him recover a little bit. I don't know how. We do see that sometimes with knockouts. Like, dudes will be dazed, concussed, or fully knocked out, and then they get cracked, and they actually wake up. They come back a little bit. But it was strange. Because he was laying it. He was pouring it on fucking Kennedy. You know, and I like Kennedy. I think Kennedy is decent. He's decent enough. Kennedy just recovered. Was way better than him in the clinch. Violated him in the clinch. I just got to say it like that. Violated him in the clinch. Devin Clark is strong, though. He's very strong. And I'm going with Devin Clark. Even though... Oh, man. God, I want to pick Marcin, man. I want to pick him. But I will not. Because he's going to be fucking KO'd by Devin Clark on some crazy shit if I do pick him. Oh, fuck. No, we're going with Devin Clark. We're going with Devin Clark. Marcin Prelims, though, he really does have dangerous technique. He's skilled. It's just the way he decides to use it. It's fried. It's very spooky. It's very spooky. And the ground game is the ground is a notable hole in his game. Grappling in general. Moving on. Loma Lukbunmi versus... Or rather, Loma Lukbun. Versus Bruna Brazil. I'm a big fan of Loma. Bruna, I don't hate, though. That's the thing. I really don't hate Bruna. She's strong. She's not like hot dog water. But, like, Loma is actually good, though. That's the thing. That's what's tough about it. Like, Loma's good, though. Like, she's actually fucking fierce. Like that, she's like fierce. That's an adjective that can be attributed to her. She's fierce. Loma's 28 years old, nice and young, 5'1". She's a wee lass. But that's what I mean. She's small but fucking fierce. 61.5-inch reach. Matched up with Bruna, 2 years older, 30 years old, 5'6" tall, 65.5-inch reach. So a 4-inch reach advantage and a 5-inch height differential between these two women. This is a women's strawweight bout. Loma is legitimately nice. That's the thing, and that's why I'm picking Loma. Loma is actually fucking skilled. Not to say Bruna's dog shit. Loma is just nice. Loma's her. She's her. She's her. It's tough. She's Thai, and you already know her Muay Thai is legitimately clean. If you haven't seen her fight, you can trust that. She's 8-3, 5-2 in the UFC. A very nice record, not shabby at all. She has one career win by KO TKO. She's 1-1 with submissions. She picked up that submission win in the UFC. She's 6-2 when it comes to decisions, 4-2 in the UFC. Lightning fast. I think she's going to be too much for Bruna Brazil. The only thing that I'm really scared of is just that the size differential is too much for Loma, just on some freak shit. But I don't think so. I think Loma will be good. I think she'll be chilling. In fact, Bruna is 9-3 with one draw coming into this fight. She's 1-1 in the UFC. She also picked up a win in LFA. Before that, she is a Dana White Contender Series graduate. She has 3 wins and 3 losses by KO TKO. One of those losses came excuse me. In the UFC, one of the win came on Dana White Contender Series. She has 2 wins by submission, 4 wins by decision, 1 in the UFC and 1 in LFA. She, like I said, she's strong, but I just don't think it'll be enough to beat someone who's as technically skilled as Loma Lookmanme. And that's the pick. Moving on to another fight. I think this is a potential fight of the night candidate. No bullshit. At the very least, a juicy knockout for someone. Balaji Oki, or Oki Balaji, versus Timothy Kwamba. Not sure how you pronounce his name, actually, because I haven't seen any of his fights. But from what I've heard, he has extremely fast hands. He is powerful. And if we look at his record, before we look at the record, actually, we'll go over the physicals super quick. Both of these guys are young. Balaji Oki coming in this fight at 28 years old, 5'10" tall, 73-inch reach. Timothy is 24 years old. He's younger than me. 5'9" tall and 71-inch reach. They both have an identical record of 8-1. Both making their UFC debut. Both are Dana White Contender Series graduates. Balaji Oki actually had an amazing Dana White Contender Series. So did Timothy Kwamba, but Balaji Oki fought a very dangerous dude in, I forget his name, but he was apparently like a really good grappler, but also like a world Muay Thai champion or some shit. And he looked good. It was just Balaji Oki hurt him bad. He's extremely fucking powerful and fast. And he's not pussy at all. He will charge in and crack you. Not charge in to take a shot and then crack you. Just keep his guard up and then run and crack you to the body, and then start finishing you. Timothy Kwamba beat Matteo Vogel on Dana White Contender Series. Now, Matteo Vogel, I'm not the biggest fan of in the sense that I just don't follow him. I don't follow his fights. I've heard of him, though. I heard of him when I was researching the Sergey Sidi versus Raymond Tavares 2, their rematch in both of their UFC debuts. On, I believe, the Johnny Walker versus Ankalaev 2 card. I think it was that card. But either way, you should know what I'm talking about. Sergey Sidi faced Matteo Vogel earlier on in their career. Forget the promotion, and it was a tough fight. Matteo Vogel won that fight, actually, and I believe that was Sergey prior to the Raymond Tavares fight was his first loss. That was a very tough fight, though. Might be remembering that wrong. But either way, it was a very tough fight. He got controlled. He got out-grappled by Matteo Vogel. And I thought Matteo Vogel, I was like, this dude actually isn't horrible. Like, we might see this dude later. And it turns out we did see this dude later, but I guess we might not see him again. Maybe not. Maybe. I did not watch his fight. He beat Matteo Vogel by unanimous decision, so I'm assuming it was a good fight. The only thing that spooks me is I'm not sure, and if somebody that does know, I'd actually love to know, so please enlighten me. He beat Matteo Vogel in Dana White Contender Series, but he very recently had a fight. I can't believe I actually skipped over this. Balaji was not intended. He did not intend to fight Timothy Kwamba. Timothy Kwamba was not slated to fight Balaji. It was Danir Hadzovic, or however you say his name. I don't particularly remember. And then that fell out extremely recently, I think yesterday, due to visa issues. No bullshit. Or 2 days ago. Like Wednesday or Thursday, that fight fell out due to visa issues. This dude took it up a couple days' notice, essentially. And I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all, not only because, one, you're taking the fight on a couple days' notice. Granted, both of you guys are making your debut, so it's a little bit different. And you won on the Contender Series, so sure. Like, and the skill and age, like, this is actually, I guess, the best like, case scenario, in a sense, that you could take one on short notice. But the thing is, he had a fight, like, last weekend. Like, he fought, like, Sunday or some shit. Like, if you look up Timothy Kwamba on his fucking Tapology, it says he fought, like, literally, like, last week. Like, so a very quick turnaround. I guess you're still in shape, right? As long as you didn't take much damage. Running through some of their records, Balaji, like I said, they both have an identical record of 8-1 making their debut. Both Dana White Contender Series graduates. Balaji has 5 wins by KO TKO. He picked up one of those on Dana White Contender Series. He has 1 win by submission. He's 2-1 when it comes to decisions, and he was prepared for a fight. He's had a camp. He was intending to fight. I think that's very important. Timothy Kwamba has 4 KO TKO victories. His 1 loss is by submission, and he has 4 wins by decision. He picked up, obviously, the decision against Matteo Vogel on Dana White Contender Series. And less than a week's notice, again, just to reiterate, just to emphasize that. He's taking this fight legitimately on, like, 3 days' notice. So, 3 days' notice, 4 days out, I'm assuming, from, like, a previous fight. It's very spooky. Balaji the pick. I think this fight should be good, though. It should either be good in a spectacular fashion or in terms of, like, a technical, actual good fight. Moving on, though. Trevin Giles versus Carlos Prates. I'm going with Carlos, man. I like Trevin Giles, though. I feel like some people hate on him a little bit. He has a really good jab. He has great takedown defense, even though I don't think the takedown defense is going to really play into this fight. The thing is, Trevin Giles has a suspect chin, and he gets hit. He gets hit sometimes. I think also the jab, his nice jab, relies when he has the reach advantage and he can go first. Carlos Prates, I'm going to break down the physical. Carlos Prates comes into this fight 30 years old, 6'1" tall, with a 78-inch reach. Matching up with Trevin Giles at 31 years old, 6 feet tall, and a 74-inch reach. So a 4-inch reach advantage, which isn't the craziest in the world, but that's nothing to scoff at. That's big. Carlos is actually good. I feel like he might be a touch overhyped. Maybe not overhyped, but I feel like we got to see more. We got to see more. We just got to see more. That's really it. But he is a very smart fighter. He's coming into this fight with a 17-6 record. Here's the thing. His record actually makes a lot of sense. What I mean by that is, like, if you watch some of his earlier fights, he's not like the same fighter. He got a lot better. Something happened, he stepped it up. Something clicked. He's putting shit together. Like, he's going on streaks. 12 of his 17 victories have come by KO TKO. He has 2 KO TKO losses, but those happened a minute ago. He picked up one of those wins, obviously, one of those KO/TKOs on Dana White Contender Series. He also fought and won in LFA for a little bit. He went 2-1 and 1, and 2-0 in LFA. Both of his wins in LFA were KO/TKOs. He's 3-3 when it comes to submissions. That's a little spooky, I guess. I think Trevin Giles would be a little bit of a better grappler, but he did show some decent defensive grappling, especially with a big sweep in his Dana White Contender Series fight. He's 2-1 when it comes to decisions. This is something also spooky. I didn't verify this because I do not have Twitter or Instagram. I'm considering making one just for the channel, but Dana White apparently tweeted about Carlos specifically. Now, that's spooky as fuck to me. Like, I remember the last time Dana White, I heard, Dana White tweeted about someone, and it was, just... I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, but... It was, I believe, Muhammad Naimov versus Jamie Malarkey. Might be misremembering the dude, Naimov. But I believe that was his name, right? Dana White apparently, tweets out around 4 a.m. My sister found this and showed it to me. Oh, tune into this dude, Muhammad Naimov's fight. It's a can't miss fight. You got to watch this dude. Muhammad Naimov's low-key getting his ass kicked and then comes back with a devastating fucking knockout in the second round. Violates Jamie. And low-key kind of, Jamie was sitting at the top of the hill and kind of pushed him down that motherfucker after that. That's what really kicked him off. But anyways, I digress. We're going with Carlos. I think Carlos is just, the striking is going to be way too deadly for Trevin. It's not, Trevin really struggles with, when dudes can hurt him and go before him and set the pace of the striking exchanges. Preston Parsons giving him trouble on the feet type shit. And I said Preston Parsons he gives everyone trouble on the feet in all of his fights, honestly. He gives people a lot of trouble on the feet type shit. Moving on. Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. I'm going to move through this one super quickly, because I think it's not a lock, but Armen's coming into this fight at 33 years old. He's 6'3" tall, and he has a 71-inch reach. Rodolfo Vieira is 6 feet tall, 34 years old, and he has a 73-inch reach. Rodolfo Vieira is a submission specialist. It's not even that he has to be respected on the ground. He's fucking a big threat. He's a threat. It's holy shit, get scared. More than some Jimmy Flick shit. It's oh shit. No, Jimmy Flick legitimately, I was saying, he has to be respected on the ground. Rodolfo Vieira, if you're on the ground with him, it's oh shit. I gotta get up. I gotta get the fuck out of here. He's extremely strong. He's kind of deceptively durable, and I say deceptively because he actually takes superficial damage, I feel easily. He gets cut open and shit. His eyes swell up, stuff like that. He takes physical damage kind of easily, but he takes it, though, Keeps going. He's 9-2, 4-2 in the UFC. He has 1 win by KO/TKO. 8 wins, his other 8 wins coming by submission. 1 loss by submission. 4 of those submissions and that 1 submission loss all came in the UFC. He also has a loss by decision. There is the big hole in his game that is striking type shit. I think that's what's going to decide this fight. I think while Rodolfo Vieira is maybe fleeing from an exchange that he doesn't like, because sometimes he does that on the feet, he'll try to flee and he gets tagged. I think that's clipped. Even if it doesn't happen like that, Armen Petrosyan, I just think, is, despite the ground game, I think the striking is going to really decide this. I think Armen has enough takedown defense to actually just stay on the feet. He's competent enough to stay on the feet. He's fought better competition, in my opinion, and he has good wins. Good wins over dudes like RoboCop and shit. He is a Dana White Contender Series graduate with a monster knockout on that motherfucker. Arman's 8-2. He's 3-1 in the UFC. 5-1 when it comes to KO TKOs. He picked up one of those wins on the Dana White Contender Series, as I said. 3-1 when it comes to decisions, and those all took place in the UFC. I'm going with Arman. I just think Rodolfo's not going to skirt out of this one. I don't think Rodolfo's going to survive and find a way this time. Because if you watch his fights, that's kind of the theme. He survives, and then he finds a way. Which is cool. That's nice. But it's tough. Like, Cody Brundage was, like, killing him. Like, it was tough. It was really fucking tough. I'm going with Arman Petrosyan. Big knockout, maybe. Maybe not, though. That's the scariest part, too. I think if it's not a knockout, maybe fucking it's honestly a Rodolfo Vieira sub, which is terrifying to think. But we'll have to see. Moving on to actually a fight that I think I'm going to switch on just because it's not sitting right in my mind. Michael Johnson versus Darius Flowers. Now, I like Darius Flowers. I like I like his attitude. You know, he's young, or younger, I should say. Michael Johnson's 37. He's 5'10" tall, 73.5-inch reach. Darius Flowers is 29, 5'9" tall, and he has a 71-inch reach. And kind of off instinct was my pick. And he really was my pick, Darius. I think I was just a little bit too tweaked. I tried to really step back for a moment, take a deep breath, ignore the Ferreira knockout because I picked Ferreira. I wanted Ferreira to knock him the fuck out. And think about the skill. Michael Johnson is scary on the feet, man. And again, there's always the thing of like, which Michael Johnson are we going to see? Like, which Michael Johnson is going to pull up? It's tough. I'm going with Michael Johnson, I think. Even though I wanted to pick, and I did pick, I'm switching over from Darius Flowers, but honestly, unless Darius Flowers just jumps in off rip to get a K, actually, I can see both happening for real. Like, Michael Johnson's chin holds up until it doesn't. Really, until it doesn't. And while he's on the feet, he's very fucking dangerous. He's very fucking dangerous. You know, he hits very hard. Here's the thing, though. Coming off of that Ferreira knockout, is he the same? Like, is he going to just go out? We don't know. We really don't know. He's still dangerous. That's the thing I think about Michael Johnson, man. He's still dangerous. He's still very dangerous. I'm going with Michael Johnson, though. I think that's the thing. I think it's the danger of Michael Johnson that I like over Darius Flowers. Darius Flowers, I like him a lot, but he's risky to pick, I think, ultimately. Darius Flowers coming into this fight, 12 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw. He's 0-1 in the UFC. He went 4-1 in LFA. He had a prolific amateur career with 11 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw, almost identical to his professional career, actually. He has 8 of his 12 professional wins by KO TKO, 1 of his losses by KO TKO as well. He picked up his 1 win by the way of the Dana White Contender Series, and he also picked up another 4 of those KO TKOs in LFA. On paper, submissions seem to be his kryptonite. And they kind of are to some extent, I guess, but he's 1-5 when it comes to submissions. 0-1 in the UFC and 0-1 in LFA. He's coming off of a submission loss, actually. Here's the thing I don't like about Darius Flowers. Despite their 8-year age gap, which is extremely notable, we cannot ignore that. Darius Flowers, and it was kind of recently, and both, I think, in round 1, was KO'd in boxing. Actually knocked out, I think. At least that's what it was written on Tapology. So, brutal knockout to Ferreira? I mean, I think, honestly, the striking of Michael Johnson, if Michael Johnson can keep it up, if he shows up, it's going to be too much for Darius Flowers. I'm going with Michael Johnson, man. Moving on. I don't feel good about Michael Johnson, man. We're going to come back to that. Moving on. Brad Tavares versus Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop. I'm also going to kind of speed through this one because I think RoboCop is as close to a lock as you can get probably on this card. Really not even going to go over the records that much. We'll just go over the physicals, give you an idea of it. Gregory's coming into this fight at 31 years old, 6'3", 75-inch reach, matching up with Brad, who is 5 years older at 36 years old, 6'1", and 74-inch reach. Here's the thing. Gregory, I think, despite coming off of a loss, if I remember correctly, Brad Tavares is coming off of like a decision win or some shit over fucking Chris Weidman. I saw that fight. Come on, brother. Like, I think Gregory's going to violate. Like, Gregory is still a lot more, like, active and competitive, like, in that sense. I think that's the main thing. And younger, physical, he looks spooky. We'll see. You'll see. You'll see. You'll see what I'm talking about tomorrow. Moving on. The featured fight. This is a fight that I might get a lot of shit for. I do not care. I'm beyond giving a fuck, actually. I almost reached over and sparked a fat-ass J with you rolled up in that motherfucker. If you're picking Robert Brychek. Of course, I'm talking about the featured fight of the night. Ihor Potieria versus Robert Brychek. Ihor Potieria, young man coming into this fight, 27 years old, the duelist, 6'3", 75-inch reach. Robert Brychek, for some fucking reason, I couldn't find his reach listed on Tapology, but he is 33 years old and he is 6 feet tall. And he is a knockout artist. That's terrifying. It's spooky. But Ihor actually, at least, again, maybe not against the best competition, but he is well-rounded. He can at least show that he can do multiple things. He can grapple, he can finish people grappling, and he can also finish people on the feet. And he's gone to decision before. He has tough losses, I think. That's what the thing with Ihor, especially his last one. I picked against Ihor in his last fight. I picked Rodolfo Bellato to win, but Ihor, you can't say that you picked Rodolfo Bellato and you were chilling. That, I think, was actually, it's one of the craziest comebacks in MMA history. No bullshit. I actually feel like people sleep on that shit. That shit was so crazy, bro. Rodolfo Bellato was getting his ass beaten. Rodolfo Bellato, honestly, that whole Texas card, I remember that shit. That was crazy. The refs were low-key bloodthirsty. They very low-key were bloodthirsty, and that was like the third fight of the night. Like the third prelim, if I remember exactly. And what it came down to, like what my sister and I said, like was like, Rodolfo Bellato got finished, but he came back and won. Like, Ihor Potieria low-key finished Rodolfo Bellato. Like, that would have been a finish in a lot of other places. Literally, other refs, they would have called that fight off, you know? But then Rodolfo won. Like, or I should say, actually, the other way around. Like, Ihor, like, fake won. He quasi-won. Like, he really was... A lot of refs would stop that fight and give him the win, the KO-TKO win. But then Rodolfo Bellato came back and finished Ihor because he kind of gassed out. Ihor really did gas out. He blew his wad trying to finish Rodolfo. Understandably, too. Rodolfo's a dangerous dude. He keeps coming. He's a master of sport in combat sambo. As well, Ihor Potieria is. He has a 20-5 record. His UFC record, I think, is a bit deceptive. Not the most, you know. It's just... I think there's something about Ihor. There's something about Ihor that I really do like. I'll say it that. It is biased. This is a bit of an emotional pick. But I think Ihor Peteria has a way bigger chance. I didn't even talk about this. Again, it's absolutely fucking horrifying, though, that he's taking this fight on a couple days' notice. Like, Jesus Christ, man, what are you doing? I get that, you're in the hot seat, coming off multiple losses. But you're putting on entertaining fights, bro. Like, your last fight, that was a loss. Like, that wasn't... It was a tough loss, but, like, that you don't have to have any shame about that one. Now, people, if you watch that fight, you'll understand. Rodolfo Bellato pulled that shit out the fire. That was a crazy fight. Well-deserved bonus for that shit. He has heart. Like, he'll get hurt and he'll keep fighting. I want Ihor to succeed, man. Robert Brychek, however, he's coming in, making his debut. Featured fight, making your debut. That's not bad. He's coming into the UFC at 17-5, 11 wins by KO TKO, 1 loss by KO TKO, 1-1 sub, 5-3 decisions. He was slated to fight Duraev, but that fight fell out. Ihor Peteria steps in. I'm hoping that it's a sign of confidence and hunger. Like, let's go. Let's fucking go, Ihor. That's all I'm really going to say about that one. Please, I know how I said earlier, like, feel free to flame me on whatever other pick it was that was a bit silly, but, like, this one is just, like, I know it's silly. Like, this is, like, kind of emotional, almost. I do legitimately think that Ihor's striking, though, is deadly. It's fucking deadly, and I think people don't give him credit, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm picking Ihor Peteria. You heard it here. You heard it here. Another spooky one. The co-main event, Dan 50K Ige versus Andre Touchy-Feely. We're going with Andre Touchy-Feely. Now, I picked against Andre Touchy-Feely in his last fight. Even though I picked him initially, I switched to Lucas Almeida because I got spooked. I was like, Lucas Almeida's hungry. He wants to make a name. Like, but no. I didn't realize man actually had 0 head movement and stands up like a fucking beanstalk. Like, that's enough of that, though. Andre's coming into this fight, 33 years old, 5'11", 74-inch reach. Dan is 32 years old, 5'7" inches tall, 71 inches reach. Both of these guys have decent records, fake veteran records. Andre Feely is a UFC veteran. That is not that he's a veteran type shit of fighting. Dan too, 15 UFC fights, 9-6 in the UFC, 17-7 overall. That's not bad at all, and well-rounded with his victories. Dan Ige is. He has 5 wins by KO TKO, picked up 3 in the UFC. 5 submission victories. Picked up 1 in the UFC and 1 on the Dana White Contender Series to get into the UFC. When it comes to decisions, that's when it gets spooky. He's 7-7 and 5-6 in the UFC, if you break that down even further. He was originally supposed to fight Lerone Murphy on this card. Andre Touchy-Feely is taking this fight on short notice, but it wasn't as short notice as, like, some of these other fights. Like, I think at least that was, like, a 2-week. Maybe not, but, like, maybe not. I might be misremembering that completely. I am fried, but I'm going with Andre Touchy-Feely as the underdog here because I think he's carrying a lot of momentum and he's in good form right now. I think he's in very good form right now, coming off of a really big win. Not only, like, was it a good knockout, just for himself, I think that was a really big win. Needed that win. It was very nice. But Dan is deadly. He is a threat. This should be a good fight. I'm not the most confident on this fight, but it should be pretty good. Going with Andre Touchy-Feely. We move on to the main event, which I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on because I actually am extremely confident on it. Jack the Joker Hermansson versus Joe Bodybags Pyfer. Great fitting nickname for him because he's fucking him. He's actually him. Joe Pyfer's him. He hits hard as shit. He hits hard as fuck. He's 27 years old, 6'2", 75-inch reach, 12-2, 3-0 in the UFC. Dana White Contender Series graduate after returning from an injury. He got fucked up in his original Dana White Contender Series appearance. And when he returned, he got a nice juicy little KO type shit. Which is why there's actually, I would say, like a little asterisk, you could say. When it comes to his method of victories, or methods of victory, he's 8-1. 8 of his 12 victories have come by KO TKO. And here's where the asterisk comes in. 1 loss by meowing buff. My cat is fucking meowing outside for me. I'll be out there in a second, buff. He has 1 loss by KO TKO, Joe Pyfer, and that 1 loss came from Dana White Contender Series because of the injury, you know? But he picked up, obviously, on his return to Dana White Contender Series, a KO TKO, picked up another 2 in the UFC. He low-key has unnatural power. Like, it's spooky. Spooky power. 3-1 when it comes to submissions, and he picked up one of those submissions in the UFC. I think that is a little deceptive because he's actually been working on his grappling apparently insanely. Not only did he violate GM3, but he also beat him in a pure grappling match recently. You can see that on Tapology. And that's very big. That's very big, actually. GM3 is known for his grappling. So I'm going with Joe Body Bikes Pyfer. I know I haven't really said too much about Jack. We're going to get over to Jack in a second, though. I think you can also see Joe... You can see Joe Pyfer getting better in every fight, legitimately. Like, and he has gifts. He has gifts. He's him. He's him. Jack the Joker Hermansson coming into this fight at 35 years old, 8 years younger. I mean, younger. Older. 6 foot 1 inches tall, 77.5 inch reach. So a 2.5 inch reach advantage. I don't think that'll be too much trouble for Joe. 23-8. 10 wins and 6 of those losses coming in the UFC. Now, ten of those wins came by way of KO TKO. 3 of those losses came by way of KO TKO. 3 wins and 3 of those losses were by KO TKO in the UFC. These are Jack's stats. He's 7-2 when it comes to submissions. 3 wins, 3 of those wins picked up in the UFC. 1 of those losses he picked up in the UFC as well. And 6-3 when it comes to decisions. 4-2 in the UFC. He's a good veteran. I think he's kind of not washed, really. I don't think he's washed, actually. But I just don't think he can take on a dude like Joe Butterbags Pyfer and really live to tell the tale. Might sound crazy, because he is skilled. He is skilled. He's skilled all around, but I think it's a power difference. It's going to be a youth thing, like that little crisp step of just being younger and stuff. I'm going with Joe Pyfer. We got to go with Joe Pyfer. I don't like how he was like acting kind of recently a little bit, but I feel like you can't pick Jack Hermansson, like for real. Like I think Joe's going to violate actually, but that's it. That is it. Closing in on an hour. Let's see. I think the fights are going to be good. Came in with this video super late. I'll actually elaborate a little bit more on this now. So I came in super late with this video, and I apologize with that, but I was expecting family, like I said, coming in from out of state to visit me in New York City. And so I've been basically cleaning. And I've also had some minor schoolwork. Not too heavy, but just doing other things, unfortunately, and just doing the research for the fights, it takes so long. If you're actually going to watch tape and shit, it does take a minute. You'd have to admit that, you know? It's always good if you've seen a dude, if you've seen, like, a lot of their recent fights, and you can remember them well. But some people, you gotta rewatch them, you know? Like, that's just tough. It's tough. It takes a while. I'm super excited for next week's fights. I'm going to try to make my video on that very shortly. That's pretty much it, I think. We'll go over it one more time, just on my picks super quick. And then I think I'll let you leave. think I'll let your bitch ass leave. How about that? Okay. Pardon me as I go back. Okay, starting out. We're going with Daniel Marcos to beat Aoriqilieng. Or Aoriqilieng. Aoriqilieng. Then we got Hyder Emil to beat Fernie Garcia, unfortunately, man. But shout out to Fernie. If Fernie can do this one, I will be happy. It won't be the worst thing in the world. Zach Paunga versus Bogdan Guskov. Bogdan Guskov is a fucking bum until proven otherwise. So we're going with Zach Paunga. Max Payne Griffin versus Jeremiah Wells. I'm going with Jeremiah Wells. Devin Clark. We're going with Devin Clark to beat Marcin Prachnio. We got Loma, Fierce Loma, smoking Bruno Brazil. Hopefully, the physicality isn't too much of a problem there. We're going with Oki Balaji or Balaji Oki to beat Timothy Kwamba. But that should be a great fight. That should be a good fight. Carlos Prates versus Trevin Giles. We got Carlos Prates taking that one. Please no fraud check. Please no fraud check, Trevin Giles. Please no. Armin Petrosian to beat Rodolfo Vieira. Darius Flowers. Actually, no, I switched over. We're going with Michael Johnson to beat Darius Flowers. I think Darius Flowers is actually still the underdog anyway, so it's not like that's the craziest thing in the world, but moving on. Gregory Rodriguez to beat Brad Tavares. RoboCop to beat Brad Tavares. We're going with RoboCop. Spooky Hours. Ihor Pateria to fucking roll up and smoking a blunt on Robert Brychek. Holy shit, I'm smoking on Brychek. Oh my god. All jokes aside, we're going with Ihor Pateria in that fight. I know that you can say whatever you want about that pick. We'll just see. I'm okay with looking like a fool on that one. I'm very okay with that. Andre Touchy-Feely stepping up on short notice to, I think, beat Dan 50K Ige. I like him as an underdog. I'll take him. And we'll finish things off with Joe Bodybags Pyfer sending Jack the Joker Hermansson on the lightless walk back to the locker room. Thank you for watching. If you stayed this long, I really appreciate that. Like the video if you like it. Dislike it if you fucking dislike it. Please leave me your thoughts. Let me know who you got, honestly, in any of this shit. Any of your action, anything at all. I will respond. I'll 100% respond. You can even talk shit and I'll respond. Big kiss.